off to the principal's office I go. Yo, you think this is bad? Wait till I get my report card.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Principal's Office. My name's Matt Lewis, look, the Principal's Office, this is the first time we've actually done it via Zoom, so hoping everyone's okay out there during lockdown, because that's why we're doing it via Zoom. But certainly the Principal's Office is a show or a vodcast that aims to give you or the viewers greater insights into what educational life is like in a school. It's certainly much more than a 9 to 3 job. Today I'm joined and very fortunate to be joined by two wonderful teachers from Wentworth Point Public School, which is a great public school over in the Sydney Olympic Park area. We've got Assistant Principal Aruna Pant, who I have worked with in the past, was a former Lincoln Public School relieving assistant principal when you left. And we've got a teacher, Vic Koutsoufis, who I haven't worked with before, but and only just met as we got onto line today. But he also works at Wentworth Point Public School. Listen, welcome, guys, and thank you for being part of our episode today. To get us started, what I'd like to ask you is, so far in your career, a funny story that you've had with your class or staff members at school, whatever it is. What I've come to learn over my career is that there are so many funny stories out there, and certainly I think we could write books after we retire and whatnot. But tell us your funny story today. We'll start with Aruna.
I was hoping you started with Vic, but I'll go. That's fine. There are a lot of funny stories, like you said, but I think the latest one that just came to my mind was with some early career teachers during QTSS. I was co-teaching their class, and I was actually just to stimulate interest in and curiosity in digital technology. I was actually teaching a lesson in digital technology. So I just went around and said, all right, in this classroom, find something that is digital. And everyone started running around. A little girl came and held my hand, and I'm like, yeah, digital. She said, Miss Pant, you are digital. Every time you come to class, you teach us about technology. So here you go. I was digital technology for her.
Okay, there you go. Out of the words, out of the mouths of babes, I suppose. I don't really understand what's going on, but I'll give a point. I'll give a point for that. That was creative. Vic, what about you? A funny story for you?
I was thinking long and hard for a funny story, because like you said, there's every week you've just got funny stories to come home and tell friends and family. But the one that I'm going to share today is from my first ever day of teaching, my first casual day. A friend from university got my foot in the door at a local school, and I was very nervous. And the roll call took 30 minutes just to finish, because the students were changing names, and this was only in kindergarten. So I was having a shocker to start the day with. The recess bell went. So I had survived the first 2 hours, and I was allowing some of the students who were following instructions to leave and go out to break. And for some odd reason, the door was jammed and they were too small to reach their handle to pull it. So then one of the tallest boys, big confident boy, wants to go up and try and open the door by himself. And he starts pulling on it, and I was getting a bit worried, and I said, oh, thanks for trying, but it's okay, I can do it. So as I get up out of my chair, he pulls it one more time, and the whole door falls off its hinge.
Oh, no.
So lucky, no one was hurt, but I just remember seeing my supervisor come and check in during recess. And I remember saying to myself, just stay calm, stay cool, just explain what happened. And she goes, Vic, how was the morning session? And I said, yeah, the kids were lovely. The door's off its hinge, but the kids were lovely. So she understood, which was great. But after 2 hours of teaching on my first casual day, I was ready to retire.
There you go. Oh, wow. And you didn't have to pay for the door to be
no.
put up, no?
She was lovely. She was understanding. which most supervisors are, thank God.
Yeah, wow, that seems like a very difficult first day, but thank goodness that you got over that first day and you're still in education today and hopefully enjoying yourself with the class you had. Let's talk about project-based learning, something that's very, very dear to my heart, as Aruna would probably know. Statistics show that the more engaged your students can be in the learning process, to the point of being absolutely excited about what they are learning, they invariably achieve better results. What effect does project-based learning have on your students as a direct result of being involved with the school?
So first of all, let me make this clear about project-based learning, that it is not a program, it is a pedagogy. It is the way you teach and learn. So definitely when you have that strong feeling, this is why do you teach in a certain way? You need to have an understanding of why we teach in a certain way. And once you get that clear and once you have a better understanding of project-based learning, then it becomes part of your daily routine. You know, it's not a program that you set and you do once a term with a little, one outcome that you are going to conduct. So just to make it very clear, that make it part of your pedagogy, the way of learning. And the biggest impact on students you will see is the motivation and engagement in them. Now, motivation and engagement, especially with the stage 3 students, and I'm sure even with kindergarten, I've never done project-based with kindergarten, but even with kindergarten up to stage 2 and stage 3, you will see that motivation and engagement actually leads. Now, again, it leads to improvement in literacy and numeracy, and that's one of the fundamental things that we need to see them improve. Just an example that I will give you is at Wentworth Point. Last year was my first year at Wentworth Point, and we were looking at data and we were looking at results and everything, and we said, okay, how can we improve students' literacy and numeracy skills? And we spoke to the students. We collected some data, quantitative and qualitative, and went from there. We implemented project-based learning, and at the end, from last year till this year, we could see with our check-in, we triangulated our data, and we could see with our check-in data that we had an 11% increase in both reading and mathematics. And I think I would say it's directly related to implementation of project-based learning. Pedagogy. It reduces cognitive overload. Students build on their knowledge. It's like constantly building, and they activate their knowledge and they become lifelong learners. Now, as for teachers, the first thing is to have high expectation. The teachers are always, the work's differentiated, and the teachers are always having high expectation of students, and that again impacts on the results of students. Feedback, assessment and feedback is ongoing. It's every day, all the time. Explicit teaching, when we say project-based learning, it's not just about here's something that we want you to do, go and find it. You have to explicitly teach certain skills. So you get them to actually, you teach them the skills, but how they implement the skills is a completely new area again. Critical thinking, strong communication, these are all the things you will see impact on students' outcome. Mm-hmm. It's very student focused.
Absolutely, absolutely, Vic.
Adding on to what Aruna said, we're getting a lot of resistance from our students to write. They just weren't interested with the old pen and paper. They weren't interested with the putting up a picture, write about what you see. So we knew that we had to listen to our students. Otherwise, we were going to lose their trust. And we analyzed our students, the type of students they were, what their interests were, what engaged them in other topics. And we knew that technology and group work was a big part of that. And that's when we made the collective decision at Wentworth Point to implement ProBL, as it had a team environment and an end goal, which is very important, as we know, in the 21st century learning. At the beginning, we surveyed the students, and because they had never been introduced to project-based learning, they were very unsure and hesitant, as they had never gone through that process. However, at the end, we resurveyed the students, and we had a 40% growth of students who rated the idea of project-based learning with 8 stars or higher out of 10. Now the students know what the process intakes. They understand that they're working in groups. They understand that there's a driving question, there's an end goal, and they get to show off their project to their peers and family and the wider community. And a big result that I've noticed is during the parent teacher conferences, we get positive feedback from the parents, the students, in almost every single conference. So the proof is in the pudding in terms of the engagement of the students.
Yeah, absolutely is. And like, we do have a lesson plan to follow or a unit plan to follow, but it's so important to finish with that culmination, isn't it? Because when we tie everything together with our big event, it certainly that lends to not only just an enjoyable type of event, but it's lifelong memories in the end.
Yeah.
That's what we provide as teachers, particularly in primary school. It's lifelong memories. And and I don't know what your primary school experience was like, but certainly at my age, and primary school was a very long time ago, I can only remember really, really good times. You know what I mean? And that's hopefully what we're providing for students of the future, or citizens of the future when they were students. They had a really, really good time at school. Fantastic answers. Thank you very much for those. What makes project-based learning so unique in its development across not only academic capabilities, so we've touched on the academic capabilities, but I think more excitingly, what does it do for social capabilities as well?
So it's good you brought this up, because something leading from project-based learning last year was this year we've actually got our general social capability as our third strategic direction for Wentworth Point Public School. And I think the project learning we did last year led to us implementing this at our school for 4 years learning now from here onwards. What project-based learning does to our social capability is it raises self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management. When I say self-awareness, it's their own emotion and state, and their need and their perspective. So it gives a platform for them to express that. When we say self-management, then they learn to regulate their emotion, because that's when we see behavior problems. Why is this behavior happening? Why am I acting the way I'm acting? So they kind of like realize that in the process of as they learn through project-based learning. Social awareness, so they also learn to show respect to others, students, and understand why they think the other people think the other way, and sometimes why it is okay to have disagreement, and how to respond to it. They learn to participate in a positive and respectful way. Social management, that's again something huge when they learn to work in a team. Traditional classroom settings do not allow them to work in a team. But when you go out into the job, or even university, even high school, there's a lot of things that you do together as a team. So social awareness is a big factor when it comes to project-based learning. So these are the skills, I think, that really promote social capabilities. And I also think generally it is the general capabilities. We were able to enhance all parts of general capabilities when we executed project-based learning. And cross-curriculum priority, it is taught not just tokenistically, but it has a purpose when you start using it in the process of project-based learning pedagogy.
Yeah, Vic, what do you think?
What I found most successful in terms of the social capabilities is that the students, they learn how to manage their peers, because they're having to collaborate daily with a group of people with a range of personalities. And that's a skill that some adults still are learning to do. So project-based learning gives students the platform to actually work collaboratively in a group, as we do in the real world once you get a job. You see through the students' daily interactions that students, they learn a lot about themselves. What are their strengths? Because every child in the group must utilize their strengths to have a successful end product. Students then know how to problem solve. They don't have a teacher breathing down their neck spoon feeding them answers. You know, teachers take a step back and allow students to be the center of the learning. The students are their own resources in terms of problem solving. They have the technology, they have each other's prior knowledge, they've got to collaborate and work together successfully. Another part that stands out is the ability to negotiate. That's something that I think a lot of students in this generation struggle to, because for whatever reason, they're getting everything that they want at home, unfortunately. So when they come to school and you have a group of 6 students who are all want to hold, be in control, that's where conflict can happen. So they're learning to manage conflicts. They're learning to negotiate roles and, once again, problem solve. And being a teacher, once you see these students manage their conflicts, once you see these students become independent learners, you are less required as a teacher to manage their conflicts and problem solve. And ironically, that's a very it's a great feeling seeing their social capabilities grow, because once again, project-based learning gives the students a platform to what it's going to be like to work in a team as they're older.
Yeah, certainly. And those soft skills are going to be so important in the future. You know, considering that artificial intelligence is now starting to be developed, and you know, those menial jobs won't mean much. You know, they'll be done by robots or whatever in the future, and these kids are going to grow up having to be, you know, managers, CEOs, whatever. And if they're getting practice now in primary school, and they can develop that over their school life and go into their work situation, they'll be recognised very, very quickly as people who can manage others, get along with others, get the best out of others, socially differentiate their style with others, and jump into those leadership positions probably earlier than others. You know, and I suppose also, you know, let's face it, you know, the more we get our children to work together in schools, the less behaviour problems we're going to have. You know what I mean? There'll always be things that we need to look after, but you certainly know how well project-based learning is working within your stage or within your school when you see how close the students are getting, you know, and the friendships that are being developed as a result. Yeah, fantastic answers. Thank you very much. What I'd like you to do now is just recall your favourite project-based learning. You know, I think I know what Aruna's is. I hope I'm right with that. But, you know, talk about, you know, what you had to do with planning, with staff, you know, the unit itself to create what was eventually an awesome outcome for students.
So I'm sure you know my favorite one. There is hands down, Dark Sky was my favorite project-based learning. It was so successful that it actually took me a while to, I thought I had to stop there. I'm like, I can't go further. How much more can we do with this? Because we saw so much growth in, I was leading that. So in my team, in my teachers, students, the outcomes for teachers were phenomenal, for students were phenomenal, for the school was excellent. So hands down, it is definitely the Dark Sky project. I think it is a labor of, what do we call it, labor of love, or what do we call that? Because, you know, we as I was at Lidcombe Public School then, and I think it wasn't that just that one project that led it to be successful. It was years of work. I think 3 or 4 years preparing to get students to be, you know, responsible for their own learning, active learners. And at the end of the project, what we saw was something that a professional scientist, a professional engineer would, you know, spill out. So the outcomes was just brilliant. What we saw there, what was most successful about it was that the students owned it. You know, we just facilitated. By the end of the project, we were just facilitating it, and they owned their projects. The thought process that went into each and every project was outstanding. The teachers, we used, it was a very strength-based approach. So as a team, all the teachers, they used their strength to plan that unit. It was collaboratively planned. Everyone held each other's hand. You know, the teachers held each other's hand, and they brought out their strength to make it so successful. It actually scares me, this project. It took me a while to start my project at Wentworth Point, because this project was just so successful, and hands down. And every time I meet students, because I live at Lidcombe too, every time I meet students here, there is not a day that they will not talk about that. When we walk past Phillip Park, which is Lidcombe Park at Phillip Park, and if I see a student, they've stopped me and say, "Miss Pant, the lights on here." So it's just brilliant. It's been 3 years since that project, but it's just top. Nothing's topped it.
Yeah, and creating lifelong memories. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very involved in this too. I think it was a project we didn't know that it would be so successful, because Matt, you actually pointed me to this project. Said, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll give it a thought." But we didn't know that it would be so big. But like I said, it wasn't that one project. When I reflect on it, it was the work that we'd done 3-4 years ahead to get students ready for that project. So I think we started when they were in, and we didn't do it intentionally. This was all, leading up to quality teaching, I would say, that led to such a good experience for the students and teachers.
And we had a lot of good project-based learning units. But that was definitely the top one. But, even the response after that, when we realised none of these kids had been to Siding Springs Observatory. So, and in winning the Dark Sky competition across New South Wales and coming third as well, another team, we certainly had to take them up there and show them what it was all about, and really make those connections. And I think you've got to be open to those connections, don't you? You've got to be open to where these kids need to take it. And that's a very hard thing for teachers, I think, to do it at certain stages. Let go of the purse strings. And say, well, if we go along this track, well, that's going to mean a lot of work. Make sure you want to do that to the students, type of thing. And as long as the students are prepared to go there, then we should be doing everything we can to, as you say, Aruna, facilitate it. Vic, what about you, mate, in your short career so far?
Yeah, look, in contrast to Aruna's, where she had been involved with it for a number of years, and her Dark Sky project was obviously something that the students had been introduced to in the past. It wasn't their first project base. My favorite ProBL unit was the first one that I was involved with. I was not so far out of uni, so I was still that pre-service teacher coming out, where in university I was told, maths is for maths time, writing's for writing time. And then being told by Aruna, the new supervisor at the school, that no, we're going to combine everything together. We're going to have this huge
integrated unit.
My mind was blown, and I think all the teachers were looking at each other like, what is this woman talking about? And then on top of that, to be told that we're going to, that I would be co-leading it was also a bit overwhelming at the start. But I knew that I was lucky to have a supervisor who had plenty of experience in project-based learning. She had been so successful in her previous units, and I knew that I had her full support. And look, overall, by the end of it, just seeing the students engage with the content, seeing the friendships from different classrooms come together, again, seeing their social capabilities grow naturally. It was a really authentic learning experience. And again, we just give them the platform, and the kids do the work. It's not as grinding as a maths lesson is to most students, or as grinding as a writing lesson is to all students. It's all the outcomes in KLAs put together in a authentic learning experience, where they don't even know that they're doing maths. They don't even know that they're learning or that they're writing a narrative story, It's all for an end goal. And it really does show, the exhibition at the end of the term really does show the success of project-based learning units.
Certainly does. And it's not to say that, for our pre-service teachers out there, that we need to get everything perfect, Like, we make mistakes along the way, and, we certainly advocate that with students. And if they make mistakes, they learn. But in this particular sense, when we're young teachers doing this as well, and I'm sure Vic and Aruna, I know, certainly I know with Aruna, we make mistakes. That's part and parcel of the job. But from that, what our next steps are so important, and the reflection that we have on that situation and how we move forward. That's what we do as teachers. So it's not as if pre-service teachers out there need to get any of this absolutely perfect right from the start. It's a learning situation for them, and no matter what stage of your career you're at, it's certainly going to be a wonderful experience still for students, but certainly for our young teachers too.
And just adding to that, I think when we started that project last year, COVID had just hit, and we were just back from closed down, and then we couldn't have an incursion, the hook, we couldn't do that. So we all dressed up as convicts, and we did the incursion. We hired we were doing history then, like what is it to walk in someone's shoes? And we dressed up. They all, like, as soon as I said, like, we'll do the incursion, let's dress up, let's act. So we wrote our own scripts, and the teachers, all of us, and we did it as a combination of stage 2 and stage 3. I was supervising both stages last year. So all stage 2 and stage 3 to be involved in this project with COVID hit. There's no incursion, there's no excursion. So we kind of, like, the teachers had to all do it. And most of the teachers, we were early career teachers, weren't they, Vic?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really good to get feedback from the students about our acting skills, getting feedback from our script, our uniform. So it was really, really engaging. I think the kids loved that the teachers were out there, putting our reputations and our acting skills on the line. So yeah, it's good. Again, it's authentic. And the kids thoroughly enjoy it. Engagement levels is something that's very difficult to measure, but you cannot argue about how project-based learning engages students.
Yeah, and look, with the problems that we've had in society of late, last year as well with COVID, what better way for children to see, what to do in those sorts of situations and become problem solvers when they see their teachers be problem solvers in that space as well. Oh, we can't have this incursion or this external group coming in to do it, so we'll do it ourselves. And that's magnificent.
And to even take on feedback as well.
Sorry
to interrupt. And just to even see the teachers become students and take on feedback, and then in our next act, be reflective on our own practice and use their feedback, and then again reflect and ask if they saw improvements in our acting skills.
Maybe should have had an Emmy award or an Oscar be presented at the end of the best teacher with the best acting skills. I don't know.
I think we shouldn't go there. We know who's very competitive at our school too.
I'll just give myself the award now.
Fantastic. Good stuff. All right. So what have you learned along the way by implementing project-based learning within, your school, Vic, but the two schools that you've been in, Aruna?
I think the biggest lesson I have learned is actually student voice and choice, to give student voice and choice. And in doing so, I've given myself voice too. I use it, Matt, you know me from when I was an early career teacher, very quiet, didn't speak up a lot, but I think this has actually given me voice, that I can voice my voice too. And also, there's nothing that's going to stop anyone from getting anywhere they want if they use their strength-based approach, use their social capabilities to, discover themselves and discover somebody else. And then, because technology is huge in these days especially, but knowing how to and what technology to use, and having that knowledge of technology and choosing the right technology as a tool for task. I think these are the three things that I've really, really learned through my process. And that's like like you've always said, it's for the students, and in the students, like making it for the students, I could see growth in myself, and I knew how to grow students, my team, and myself. So I could see the growth in a collective growth in everyone together.
Yeah, that reflective process is so important. What have you learned?
The biggest thing that I've learned is going through uni, you hear about all these pedagogies that you're really a bit unsure of because you haven't put them into practice. Then you start teaching and you implement pedagogies that are quite traditional, and a lot of them will work. But I feel that project-based learning has been the biggest pedagogy that prepares the kids to be successful adults out in the real world. And you hear often from people who may not have enjoyed school or weren't very successful at school say, well, why did we learn this at school? We never use this in the real world. I think that project-based learning absolutely prepares kids socially and academically to work in a team in the real world, to get a job, to problem solve, work in a group, understand how there are many personalities in the world and how to deal with everyone. From a teacher's point of view, I think the bulk of the unit is in the planning. However, once the planning is done, you've got every lesson in every session explicitly ready to be taught. And then the world is the oyster for the students to, again, add on to what Aruna said, is their choice to go in whatever direction that they like. We give them some ideas, and then it's up to them to problem solve and answer the driving question however they like.
Yeah, and give them that choice. And I think what you both sort of mentioned to these pre-service teachers that will be watching is the reflection is just so important, isn't it? Right? A reflection for students, reflection for you guys as teachers, even supervisors, even the school and the community. Reflect on the processes that work and keep on hitting those processes, because if it is an engaging process and they're learning a lot out of it, then we certainly should be doing it. And it's not as if we have to do a project-based learning unit every term. We don't do that. We might have one intervention a year, or we may have two, but we don't have to do it all the time. But it's certainly well worth it to do it at some stage during a year with your class. The positives are just never ending. So look, thanks today. I really want to thank you both for jumping on Zoom and doing this episode of the Principal's Office. You've got great. You're coming across in a great way for this episode, and I'm sure our pre-service teachers have learned a lot just by listening to you. But it's time for the song challenge. Okay, and
you can take it, Vic.
I love the song challenge. All right, now what I do is I just read out some words. Okay, I've chosen a song, Vic. You may not have been born, I don't know, but it is definitely.
Oh my goodness.
It's definitely a song that most people would know. I read out the lyrics and you just shout out when you know something. What I want to know is the artist and the song title. And what I have here, I have two minties that I'll send virtually through the portals or whatever. One for the song artist, one for the song title, one for the artist. You can end up with both, and if you do, that's great. If you end up with both and you share, that's great too. We encourage all sorts of scenarios here on the Principal's Office. So my question to you is, are you ready for the song challenge?
Let's go.
Let's go? Okay. All right. I won't let you down.
George Michael.
George Michael is correct. What is it? No, it's not Faith. It's not Faith. I will not give you up. Got to have some faith in the sound. It's the one good thing that I've got.
Isn't it Faith?
It's not Faith.
Oh goodness, come on, what is it? Let it down. I want to hear the song now.
Yeah, we need some tunes, Matthew.
Sorry?
We need some tune to it.
That's cheating. That's cheating. So the video had supermodels in it.
I know supermodels did this doing that. It's not faith. Why don't? What is
No,
it?
it's not
Just
faith,
little
it's not faith.
first word.
It's not Faith.
Vic
And it was in
wasn't born.
1990. It did start with F. In fact, 90 was on the end of the title. And it did start with
1990?
F.
What is it? You check my computer.
Yeah, I'm doing some research.
George Michael's song.
Freedom 90.
Yeah, all right, we got yes. Along. But you both got a minty each. So a minty for you, Vic.
Thank
and a
you.
minty for you, Aruna. I'll send
The longest one.
It was a long song too, but no, great song, great artist. You both did well. The right outcome was achieved because you both get a minty. Fantastic. Wow. So when I actually put all this together, I do the song. I put the song in the background. So that'll be going on for about 6 minutes. But anyway, that's all right.
Just make sure you just reduce like the pause for a long time. Okay, just go straight into.
I might put the clock on it. TikTok. Anyway. All good. Listen, I want to thank you again for joining us today for episode 11 of the Principal's Office. It's been wonderful hearing your insights, and no doubt our pre-service teachers will get a great handle on what project-based learning is all about, and they'll have some sort of idea of what's going on when they do eventually get into a school. I want to thank Erwin Manalo, who is our executive producer, who helps me on this project in getting things up and running. Thanks, Erwin. And of course, at the end of this episode, you'll see that there are the socials. So get on to Facebook, to YouTube, to LinkedIn, to Twitter. But of course, being on YouTube, you'll see the arrows to subscribe below. Please subscribe. I think we've got a lot of subscribers so far, but the more the merrier. Thank you, Aruna. Thank you, Vic. Really appreciate you joining us today for episode 11 of the Principal's Office. Thanks again.
Pleasure's ours.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
It's off to the principal's office you go. It's off to the principal's office I go.